It was a peaceful afternoon in Emma and Jack's cozy house. The warm scent of freshly baked cupcakes wafted through the air, filling the kitchen with a sweet, irresistible aroma. Emma and Jack, siblings just a year apart, had spent the last hour carefully mixing ingredients and decorating their cupcakes with colorful sprinkles. Finally done, Jack exclaimed, setting the last tray on the counter. These look amazing. Emma, wiping flour off her hands, nodded with satisfaction. But they smell even better. Let's leave them to cool while we clean up. The siblings worked together to tidy the kitchen, laughing as they recalled how Jack almost dropped the mixing bowl earlier. Everything seemed perfect until Jack turned back to the counter and froze. Wait, where's the last cupcake? He asked, his voice tinged with confusion. Emma looked up, puzzled. What do you mean? Jack pointed at the tray. There were 12 cupcakes. Now there are only 11? Emma stepped closer, her brows furrowing. Are you sure? Maybe you miscounted. Jack shook his head. I counted twice before we put them in the oven and again when we took them out. Emma examined the tray, her expression shifting from disbelief to curiosity. This is strange. We were the only ones in the kitchen. The mystery of the missing cupcake hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Jack scratched his head, glancing around the room. Did you eat it? Emma gasped, offended. Of course not. I would never eat one without asking. Did you? Jack crossed his arms. No way. I was with you the whole time. They both stared at the tray, trying to make sense of the situation. If neither of us ate it, Emma said slowly, then who did? Jack's eyes lit up with determination. We have to find out. Someone in this house knows what happened to that cupcake? Emma nodded, already feeling the excitement of solving the mystery. Together, they began scanning the room for clues. Jack leaned closer to the counter, noticing a small trail of crumbs leading to the edge. Look at this, he said, pointing. Crumbs. Maybe they'll lead us to the culprit, Emma grinned. Okay, detective, let's follow the trail. But first, we should start with the obvious suspects. Jack tilted his head. You mean Mom and Dad? Emma nodded. Exactly. Let's go ask them. With their mission set, Emma and Jack left the kitchen, ready to confront the first suspects in their house. Emma and Jack entered the living room, where their mom sat comfortably on the couch, reading a magazine. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over the room. Mom, Jack called out, his voice firm and inquisitive. Their mom looked up, startled by their serious expressions. What's going on, kids? Emma crossed her arms, trying her best to look like a detective. We need to ask you a very important question. Their mom raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. All right, what is it? Jack stepped forward, holding up an invisible notepad like a professional investigator. Mom, did you eat the last cupcake? Their mom blinked, then let out a laugh. Me? Eat your cupcake? No, I didn't. Why would you think that? Emma leaned in, scrutinizing her mother's face. You were in the kitchen earlier, weren't you? I was, their mom admitted, smiling, but only to make tea. I didn't touch your cupcakes, I promise. Jack jotted something imaginary in his notepad. Suspicious. Their mom chuckled. Well, if you're done accusing me, I'd like to get back to my reading. Emma sighed, glancing at Jack. All right, Mom. You're off the hook for now. Jack nodded, still looking skeptical. But we're watching you. They turned and headed toward the backyard, where their dad was tending to the garden. He was crouched by the flower bed, carefully planting new bulbs in the rich soil. Dad, Emma called as they approached. He looked up, wiping his hands on a towel. Hey kids, what's up? Jack didn't waste a moment. We need to know, did you eat the last cupcake? Their dad laughed, standing up and dusting off his jeans. What cupcake? Emma explained, her tone serious. The last cupcake from the tray we baked. It's missing, and we're trying to figure out who took it. Their dad scratched his head, thinking, well, I've been out here all afternoon. I haven't even stepped into the kitchen since breakfast. Jack narrowed his eyes. Are you sure? Maybe you just forgot. Their dad chuckled. Pretty sure, buddy. Besides, if I had eaten it, I wouldn't forget something that delicious. Emma rolled her eyes. Dad, this is serious. All right, their dad said, holding up his hands. I didn't eat your cupcake. Maybe Max got to it. Jack's jaw dropped. Max, the dog. Emma's eyes widened. Of course. He was in the kitchen earlier, too. Without another word, they dashed back inside, leaving their dad shaking his head with a smile. In the hallway, they found Max, their golden retriever, lounging by the door. He wagged his tail lazily as they approached. Max, Emma said sternly, kneeling down to look him in the eyes. Did you eat the cupcake? Max tilted his head, his ears perking up as if he understood. Jack crouched beside her, holding up a hand. Wait, let's look for clues first. They examined Max's paws and the floor around him, searching for crumbs or frosting. To their surprise, there was nothing. Not a single crumb, Emma said, frowning. I guess it wasn't him. Jack sighed, sitting back on his heels. We're running out of suspects. Emma stood up, determination flashing in her eyes. Then we'll just have to dig deeper. Someone in this house knows the truth, and we're going to find out who. With that, they headed back toward the kitchen, ready to examine the scene of the crime more closely. Back in the kitchen, Emma and Jack stood by the counter, staring at the tray of cupcakes as if it held the answers they were searching for. The crumbs Jack had noticed earlier still clung to the edge of the counter, leading toward the pantry door. Emma squinted at the trail. Jack, do you see that? The crumbs don't just stop, they go this way. Jack leaned closer, following her gaze. The pantry. His voice was a hushed whisper, as though they were uncovering a long-lost secret. Emma grabbed his arm. Come on, let's check. The siblings tiptoed toward the pantry, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Jack opened the door slowly, revealing shelves packed with jars, cereal boxes, and snacks. At first glance, everything seemed perfectly normal until Emma spotted something unusual on the bottom shelf. Look, she exclaimed, pointing. Jack crouched down, his eyes widening. More crumbs. Right next to the crumbs was an empty cupcake liner, slightly crumpled as if it had been hastily discarded. Emma gasped. Whoever took the cupcake must have eaten it here. But who? Jack asked, glancing around the pantry. Just then, they heard a faint noise behind them, a soft rustling sound like the whisper of movement. They spun around to find Max, their golden retriever, sitting just outside the pantry door. His tail wagged furiously, and his big, curious eyes were fixed on them. Max, Emma said, narrowing her eyes. What are you doing here? Jack crossed his arms. It's awfully convenient for you to show up now, don't you think? Max tilted his head, his ears perking up at their voices. Emma pointed at the crumbs. Jack, what if he's the one who did it? Maybe he grabbed the cupcake and ate it here? Jack shook his head. But there's no frosting on his fur or crumbs around his paws, and remember, we checked him earlier. Emma sighed, her detective confidence shaken. Then why does he keep following us around? It's almost like he's trying to tell us something. Jack crouched down to Max's level, staring into the dog's eyes. All right, Max, if you didn't take the cupcake, who did? Show us. To their surprise, Max barked once, then turned and trotted toward the kitchen table. The siblings exchanged puzzled glances before following him. Max stopped by one of the chairs and sat, wagging his tail. Jack frowned. What's he doing? Emma noticed something on the chair, something small and shiny. She leaned closer and gasped. Jack, look. It was a piece of colorful sprinkle, just like the ones they had used to decorate the cupcakes. Jack's eyes widened. That wasn't there before. Max must have smelled it. Emma straightened up, her mind racing. But if the sprinkles are here, that means someone sat in this chair while eating the cupcake. Jack nodded, determination returning to his voice. And we know it wasn't us, Mom, Dad, or Max. That leaves only one other person in this house. Tommy, they said in unison, their voices filled with certainty. The siblings locked eyes, knowing their investigation was far from over. If Tommy, their mischievous younger brother, was the real culprit, it was time to confront him and uncover the truth. With their suspect in mind, Emma and Jack marched toward Tommy's room, determination fueling their steps. Tommy, their 5-year-old brother, was known for his mischief. If anyone would sneak a cupcake without asking, it was him. The door to Tommy's room was slightly ajar, and May could hear faint giggles coming from inside. Emma exchanged a knowing glance with Jack before pushing the door open. Tommy was sitting on the floor, surrounded by his collection of action figures. He looked up with wide eyes as his siblings entered. "Hi, Emma." "Hi, Jack," he said cheerfully. "Tommy," Jack began, crossing his arms, "we need to ask you something very important." Tommy blinked innocently. "Okay," Emma leaned down, trying to look serious but not too intimidating. "Did you eat the last cupcake from the tray in the kitchen?" Tommy's face lit up with surprise. "A cupcake? No, I didn't eat it." Jack wasn't convinced. "Are you sure?" "We found sprinkles on the chair near the kitchen table. That's where you sit sometimes." Tommy shook his head adamantly. "I didn't eat it. I was playing here all day." Emma sighed, unsure of what to believe. "Tommy, we just need the truth. If you ate it, it's okay, but you have to tell us." Tommy looked down at his toys, his lips trembling slightly. "I didn't eat it," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Jack frowned, feeling a pang of guilt. "Maybe he's telling the truth," he muttered to Emma. But Emma wasn't ready to give up. If it wasn't Tommy, then who else could it be? Just as she spoke, Tommy's face brightened. "Wait, I saw something." Emma and Jack leaned in eagerly. "What did you see?" Jack asked. "This morning," Tommy began, "I was going to the kitchen to get my cereal, and I saw someone near the cupcakes." "Who?" Emma asked, her heart racing. Tommy hesitated, then whispered, "I think it was someone wearing a hoodie." "A hoodie," Jack repeated, confused. "Who in our house wears hoodies?" Emma's mind reeled. Could it have been a visitor? Or someone they hadn't thought of yet? Tommy continued, "I didn't see their face, but they were really fast. They grabbed something and ran out the back door." Emma stood up, her detective instincts kicking into high gear. "Jack, if Tommy's telling the truth, then this is bigger than we thought. We need to check the backyard." Jack nodded, already heading toward the door. "Come on, Tommy, you're part of the team now." The three of them hurried to the backyard, their curiosity growing with every step. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grass as they scanned the area for clues. Emma pointed at the flower bed. "Look there, footprints." Jack crouched down to examine the marks. "They're fresh. Someone definitely walked through here recently." Tommy's eyes widened. "It must be the person I saw." Emma followed the trail, her heart pounding. The footprints led to the back gate, which was slightly ajar. She pushed it open and stepped outside, her breath catching when she saw a scrap of paper caught on the fence. "What's this?" she said, pulling it free. Jack and Tommy crowded around her as she unfolded the paper. Scrawled in messy handwriting were the words, "Thanks for the cupcake." Jack stared at the note, his jaw dropping. No way. Someone actually left a note? Emma examined it closely. This handwriting looks familiar, but who would do something like this? Tommy tugged on Emma's sleeve. "Maybe it's a neighbor." Jack nodded slowly. "It could be. Maybe one of the kids next door snuck in and took the cupcake." Emma sighed, her mind racing. "We need to figure this out before it gets any more confusing. Let's go talk to the neighbors and see if anyone knows anything." With a mysterious note in hand and more questions than answers, the trio set off to uncover the truth. Emma, Jack, and Tommy approached the house next door, their determination unwavering. The neighbors, the Millers, had two kids who often played in their yard. If anyone knew something about the missing cupcake, it might be them. Emma rang the doorbell, the sound echoing in the quiet afternoon. Moments later, Mrs. Miller opened the door with a warm smile. "Hello, kids. What brings you here?" she asked. Emma cleared her throat, holding up the note they found. "Hi, Mrs. Miller. We're investigating a little mystery about a missing cupcake. Do you recognize this handwriting?" Mrs. Miller squinted at the note and chuckled. "Well, it does look like my daughter Chloe's handwriting." "Is she in trouble?" Jack quickly shook his head. "Not at all. We just want to know if she saw anything unusual today." Mrs. Miller stepped back and called over her shoulder, "Chloe, come here for a minute." A moment later, Chloe, a girl about Jack's age, appeared in the doorway. She looked at the group curiously. "What's going on?" Emma held out the note. "Chloe, did you leave this?" Chloe's cheeks turned red as she recognized her writing.
Oh, yes, I did," she admitted, fidgeting nervously.
Jack's eyes widened. "So, you're the one who took the cupcake?" Chloe looked down, embarrassed. "I didn't mean to. I came over to borrow some sugar from my mom, but no one was in the kitchen. The cupcake smelled so good, and I was really hungry, so I took one." Emma crossed her arms, trying to look stern but struggling to hide her amusement. "And you thought leaving a note would make it okay?" Chloe nodded sheepishly. "I thought it was better than just taking it without saying anything." Tommy giggled, breaking the tension. "She said thank you, at least." Emma sighed, her initial frustration melting away. "Next time, Chloe, just ask us. We would have given you one." "Right, Jack?" Jack nodded. "Yeah, but maybe not the last one." Chloe smiled, relieved. "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to cause so much trouble." Mrs. Miller put a hand on Chloe's shoulder. "Well, it seems you've learned a good lesson today. Now, let's go back inside so I can teach you to bake your own cupcakes." The kids all laughed, and Emma and Jack waved goodbye as they headed back home with Tommy. Back in their kitchen, the siblings stood by the counter looking at the remaining cupcakes. "Well, that was an adventure," Emma said, grinning. Jack nodded, "And we solved the mystery. Chloe was the culprit all along." Tommy tugged on Jack's sleeve. "Can I have a cupcake now?" Emma laughed. "Sure, Tommy. You deserve it for helping us." She handed Tommy one of the cupcakes, and he bit into it happily. Jack grabbed one for himself, and Emma did the same. As they enjoyed their treats, Emma looked at Jack and said, "This might have been the most exciting day we've had in a while." Jack nodded, his mouth full of cupcake. "Yeah, but next time, let's put a no stealing sign on the tray." Emma laughed. "Good idea." With the mystery solved and their bellies full, the three siblings spent the rest of the afternoon playing together, feeling closer than ever. As the story wrapped up, Emma and Jack turned to the audience with big smiles on their faces. "Wow, what a day," Emma said, leaning on the kitchen counter. "We solved the mystery of the missing cupcake, and we learned a lot along the way." Jack nodded. "That's right. And now, let's go over some of the phrases and words we used during our investigation." Jack held up a list, showing the words as they appeared on the screen. Cupcake, a small, sweet cake that you can eat in one bite. Crumbs, small pieces of food left behind when you eat something. Note, a short message written on paper. Trail, a line or series of things that leads you somewhere, like crumbs or footprints. "Can you think of other times you've seen crumbs or a trail?" Emma asked, pausing for the audience to think. Jack turned to the audience. "Let's practice some of the phrases we used in the story. Did you eat the cupcake?" "Emma, we use this question to ask if someone did something in the past." "Repeat after me. Did you eat the cupcake?" No, I didn't. Jack, this is how we say we didn't do something. Repeat. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Emma, this is the opposite. It means you did it. Repeat. Yes, I did. Jack smiled. Now it's your turn to practice. Imagine you baked cookies, but one is missing. Who would you ask? Emma added, write your question in the comments or practice saying it out loud. You can start with, did you eat the cookie? Emma clapped her hands together. Remember, asking questions like, did you? Is super useful when talking about the past. You can use it in so many situations, like at work, with friends, or even at home. Jack grinned. And don't worry if it's hard at first. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Emma looked directly at the audience. Thanks for helping us solve the mystery today. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Jack added, if you enjoyed this story and learned something new, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and check out our next story, The Market Adventure. See you next time, Emma said, waving. Jack and Emma waved together, and the screen faded to a cheerful outro music, inviting viewers to continue their journey of learning English through stories.